give the floor to Mr. David Ουσufashvili for your initial comments.
Well, thank you very much for reminding both of us who we are, where we came from. And thank you everybody who are here in this room today and have interest to hear from presenters about this very complex topic. Thank you everybody who made our stay in Bucharest during these 2 days very interesting and very effective and very fruitful. As you may know, we are here, the delegation of Georgian Parliament, and they are my colleagues from different political groups in the room, and we had very useful meetings during 2 days with the leaders of the Parliament, with representatives of the government, and spoke on the issues which is the topic of today's discussion. And we were underlining the importance of the momentum, because the Black Sea was always Black Sea, and people living around Black Sea were living there for centuries. Why it is important now to talk about these issues? What makes it so important for everybody to discuss it, and what brought us Georgians to Romania now, in these days? Probably we should start from that. And my tentative topic of conversation, as was agreed with the organizers, was from Vilnius to Riga. And the question is how we appeared here. If we are talking about from Vilnius to Riga, what to do in Bucharest, and what's going on here. In fact, for us, for Georgians, this distance from Vilnius to Riga, between the two summits, between the two capitals who are in charge of the European affairs during last 2 years, Vilnius being already, and Riga will be soon the destination of that meeting. Within this 1 year, we are going to find the answer on our question: is Europe ready to receive us back in the family of free nations or not? Because from our side, we expressed our determination, our willingness, our choice many times, that as soon as the Soviet Union was gone, as soon as the communism was ended in Georgia, unfortunately in some cases only formally, because some mentality is still affected by those years, we declared that we want to be part of the free world. We want to be as close as possible with the European structures. We want to become NATO member state, and we want to contribute to the efforts of free world to make the world free and peaceful. Unfortunately, our declaration was not accompanied appropriate homework which we needed to do, because by the help of our northern neighbor, we managed to engage ourselves in civil war in early 90s. We managed to involve ourselves in conflicts with separatist regimes. We managed to be involved in the war with Russia itself, as recently as August 2008. We managed to have polarization of the society. We managed to change the government peacefully only first time a couple of years ago. Otherwise, there were always some major shaking of the foundations of the state when the change of the government was happening. So we realized that, and we know that there were certain things which we needed to better way in order to be accepted in Europe back. And when I'm saying this word, back to Europe, of course we Georgians mean a lot there. With that we underline that as early as in 4th century, when Georgia became a Christian state, we, with our identity, belong to that civilization, that cultural, political environment. And despite the fact that for many years Georgia was invaded by different big powers in those centuries, we always were looking towards Europe. And when more than 200 years ago Georgian kings concluded agreement with Russian Empire about protection, we then thought that through Russia we are joining Europe. Unfortunately, then things went in different direction, and this, the word protection was understood differently by two sides. Russia thought that by protection that meant that to protect and take complete control on everything. And that's how we spent the 19th century. But even bigger disaster happened with us in 1920s, when brief independence was followed by invasion of Soviet Russia already, and then we became part of Soviet Union and so on. But even during 19th century, when we were part of Russia, when the statehood of Georgia was abolished, we were still connected to Europe through then Tsarist Russia. When the isolation started, it was 1921, when the communist regime just closed the borders. And we were left for 70 years in that system, which of course I have not spent much time on that. Therefore, when we say that we feel that we are part of Europe, this is not just because we know that Mercedes is better than Zhiguli or Lada, or what is it? And that's only just one set of considerations where people live better. The other set of considerations is much more important. What is the part of our identity, and to which world we belong? Therefore, every single elections, if you want to analyze the data, demonstrated in Georgia that about 90% of voters constantly during these 20 years were voting for political forces and political leaders who were clearly identifying the European way as the only viable choice for Georgia. Pro-Russian or pro-Georgian, sometimes there are politicians who call like that, that no Russia, no Europe, no NATO, no nothing, just we Georgians. But we know what it means eventually. So these kind of sentiments, these kind of political statements, we are getting very, very marginal support and response from the society. That's why this issue, where the Georgians want to take those challenges which European integration brings or NATO membership brings, the answer is yes. Because there is almost no other option. And the other option is to become part of bigger Russia again, which surprisingly we do not want. So, during this year, we are going to make, to see the answer on this issue. And in Vilnius, we almost got that answer. And the association agreement with the European Union was initiated, and it is kind of widely, the understanding is that the technical things are left, just translation of documents, initial, final signature, and so on. However, that's not our understanding of the situation, and that's why we came here, as well as we are traveling in other capitals of European countries to tell to our friends that we should not be mistaken by these formalities, because we can say the game is not over. And the Vilnius summit which was successful for Georgia and Moldova, is not the event which already decided this issue finally. And we expect complications coming from the same forces which just don't want to allow Georgia to become free and to make free choice about its own future. I will not go in details of speculations where the threat could come and what exactly can happen, what kind of difficulties could emerge, but we are sure that if the democratic world and European countries do not demonstrate enough solidarity to Georgia and to Moldova, this process could have different development, as it unfortunately happened, and I hope temporarily, in Ukraine. The threats we are talking about is not virtual for Georgia. Now, when we are sitting here, 20% of Georgian territories remain occupied by Russia. And this fact is widely recognized by the international community. But at the same time, that same community is part of the Sochi Olympic Games, which is happening in 20 kilometers from that occupied territories. And these two things, both things are happening simultaneously now in 21st century. These two facts demonstrate the magnitude of the problem. Because on one hand, how it is possible that the world is tolerating one country going and occupying the territories of the other country. And instead of making all necessary and all possible efforts, well, we are entertaining ourselves very close to that territory. But this is the complexity of the current world, and we need to realize that. And this is the understanding of the complexity of the current world which led us, the newly elected government of Georgia, to agree to go and participate in that very Sochi Olympics. And our team is there as well. With this move, we wanted to demonstrate that we do not think that we are just alone in the world, and the rest of the world needs to be living with our problems and just trying to solve our problems. Each country, each nation has its own immediate and long-term strategies and can do only so much for the others. And with this move, we also wanted to underline the fact that despite all the difficulties with Russia, we are trying not to close all the contacts with Russia and Russians. That's why we came up with some initiatives to open closed markets for goods from each side. That's why during last year we saw about 2 times increase of Russian tourists who came to Georgia during summertime. So we are ready to be ready for such sophisticated and complex world, with one condition. And the condition is that the major direction should not be changed, and major issues should not be undermined, and we are not ready for that kind of compromises. We went there to Sochi Olympics because we realized that if Georgia was announcing boycott because of the occupation, hardly any other democratic country was ready to join us. I'm saying this very frankly, very openly, just to demonstrate that the problem is quite considerable, and it is affecting dignity of every single democracy in the world. That means that when we are trying to become part of bigger Europe, with that we want to help the rest of the world to construct better system. And after the breakup of Soviet Union, the problems did not disappear. They are still there, and they are affecting different nations differently. In our case, as I mentioned already, this is just a huge burden. At the same time, we are not asking just please come and help us, because we believe we can contribute and to be helpful for other countries and other nations. During these 2 days, we spoke with our Romanian colleagues about many ongoing projects and many important, very interesting ideas how to enhance the cooperation between two countries. Because after deep and comprehensive free trade agreement with the European Union, after visa liberalization agreement, after association agreement, Georgia will become closer to Europe. But closer to Europe, first of all, means closer to the other side of the Black Sea, closer to this country. That's why we are talking about new transport routes, about some new connections which could attract business interests not only between two countries and not only between South Caucasus and, let's say, Black Sea region, but much bigger and wider region, Central Asia, China, and others are there as well. So we can be helpful for those who are just ready for open, honest relationship with each other. We cannot serve the interests of states, countries who are trying to get something exclusive. That's why we cannot deal with Russia, which wants just to see our territory as territory for military bases, or the territory which must be closed for the business interactions or these energy streams and so on. So this is our message, this is our expectations. We are ready. We see that our friends in this country and in the neighborhood are ready, and we need to make big step forward. The same I could be saying about NATO, but probably time is running.